S.T.E.M Fair Week 2. We're going to go over the next pages that we're going to be completing in the book, and we're going to keep going on with our lima bean experiment as we go.
So Miss Ryan and I went over page 8, page 9, and page 10 with your students. We're going to start with predictions right here. So there are 3 points to investigate. And if we were using the lima beans, we would say, as a prediction, it will increase the number of lima beans, it will decrease the number of lima beans, or there will not be any effect on the lima beans at all. So when your students are filling this out, they need to be thinking of, will there be an increase, a decrease, or no effect, depending on what project they have chosen to do. After you have this filled out in complete sentences, you will look at constructing a hypothesis. So when you go through this process here, you'll see there is an if, then, and a because. So if we were using the lima bean project, we could say, if I plant lima beans in 3 different soils, then the one planted in Miracle-Gro soil will produce the most beans. Because, and this is where you want to include some of the students' research that they have looked up, hopefully, over the 4-day weekend. And that way they can say, because of the ingredients in the soil, or because of the amount of success that Miracle-Gro has to show, whatever it is that they researched here. So,
again, looking at the booklet, we have those same symbols from before, whether the students are doing a science experiment or an engineering plan. It tells them exactly what their if, then, because statement should look like.
So if we were to move into the materials list, right here it says detailed. Please make sure that your student is paying close attention to this word. Let me show you an example of what a non-example looks like and what a good example looks like. So right here, clearly we are using water, soil, and lima beans. However, this is not specific enough because this does not tell me how much water, what kind of soil, or lima beans I'm using. So if I wanted to be more specific, I would go here. I would say that I'm using 30 ounces of water daily. I could say 30 ounces of water 1 time daily. You need to be very specific here. Next, we're going to move into the soil. I could say that I want to use Miracle-Gro soil, 2 cups. The other one will have Magic Soil brand, 2 cups. The last one I could use would be Green Living soil, and it would be 2 cups as well. This way, it's more specific than this here. I could also say what brand of lima beans I'm using, whether they are dry or canned. Whatever the preference is, make sure you are very particular into how and what you are using. So now we're going to take a look at the setup condition and controls. This is where your post-it notes or your sticky notes are going to come in.
So on our last video, we talked about our controls, what we would not change. So we're going to go back to those pages and pull the same sticky notes from there. So our setup conditions for our lima bean experiment were our sunlight, our temperature, and our water. So those 3 should end up right in this spot, and you just have the sticky note that makes it easy to pull it out and put it right in there. We know that we're controlling all of those, so all the plants should get the same sunlight, they should all get the same water, and they should all have the same temperature. Then we're going to move into our directions. Our directions, again like our materials list, need to be detailed. Someone should be able to repeat this experiment step by step without having to ask any questions.
Let's go ahead and take a look at page 10. And once again, these are all items that we went over with your students. We understand that this can be stressful, so we will walk you through everything during the process.
So again, page 10 involves our sticky notes, but these ones involve the ones that we are testing. So we're setting up our experiment, and the first question asks, what will I change? Our independent variable. So the students should now be pulling their sticky note, and in our experiment, it was our soil is what we're changing. Then they'll talk about what they'll do to carry out the change. So for our example would be our 3 different types of soil. We had Miracle-Gro, Magic, and Green Living. That's what we would list here, what we'll do to carry out the change. The number of trials is important because you need to know that it didn't just happen once by mistake. The students need to be testing it more than one time. The next asks for the data I will collect, and this again is your sticky note. This is the one that you will measure. So in our case, it was measuring the number of beans. The next parts ask the students to think about how they're going to collect the data. This should be whether they're going to count the beans every day, whether they're going to go every week and count them. How will they get the data they need? And the last part is how they will record this data. Whether they're setting up a table, a chart, pictures, whatever they need to record the data, they need to be thinking about that now before we start the experiment.
And yesterday I had a student ask me, well, Mrs. Cherbach, how do I do the chart? Can I make a T-chart? And my response was, absolutely. Just make sure you are including all of the information in an organized way. So it's very clear to someone else, if they were to do the project, that they could clearly read your information.